Hi there, and welcome back to this week's show. I've just realised I have my music blaring. I thought it was the neighbours. It's me playing Nine Inch Nails. Hang on, I better pause that. Go my ADHD brain and my chemo brain. So once again, you can tell that this is not AI because I have made a mistake straight up. But again, welcome to the show. Today, I want to talk about something that I hear pretty often, and it's how much does a divorce cost? But here's the problem. Most people are actually asking the wrong question because a divorce and a property settlement are not the same thing. And a lot of people think that they are. And this confusion can cost people tens of thousands of dollars years later, particularly de facto couples who technically don't even get divorced at all. They can still go through a property settlement, but they're not divorced as such. And same as people can go through a property settlement and not get divorced. So I just want to make sure that I clear up any confusion between like divorce, de facto, property settlement. So as I said, I'm going to break this down in as plain English as I can possibly get with taking my lawyer hat off. So what a divorce actually is, what a property settlement is, and why they are different. What people accidentally miss, and some quick wins to help you avoid some expensive mistakes. So this episode is based on Australian law. I will do a US version because a lot of our viewers are also US and our listeners, sorry. But this episode is for married couples and de facto couples because honestly, the confusion is there for both, as I said. So what is actually a divorce? So let's start with the word divorce. A divorce is simply the legal ending of a marriage. That's it. It does not automatically divide your assets, finalize parenting, split super, transfer the house, or protect you from any future claims. It is basically the legal equivalent of saying, yes, this marriage has come to an end. There is no chance that we are going to get back together. Let's proceed. And in Australia, the filing for a divorce is kind of like around the 1K mark, but there are concessions available if you meet that. That's just the filing fee. That's not the paperwork if you get a lawyer. And if it's straightforward and amicable, some people do it themselves online, but this is where most people get caught out because they think, great, we're divorced, everything is done. Not necessarily. The property settlement is an entirely separate process. So what is a property settlement? A property settlement is the legal and financial untangling of your lives. So it includes things like houses, bank accounts, businesses, super, debts, cars, shares, inheritance, mortgages, liabilities, and sometimes future needs. And there's probably other things in there I haven't thought of. And this applies whether you were married, de facto, same sex. If you're de facto, you have to be together for at least 2 years, or it applies whether you're together for 20 years. So this is the part that actually deals with who gets what. And importantly, just because you verbally agreed to something doesn't mean you are legally protected. And I say that one a little bit as well. So that sentence alone could save you like listening thousands. That was really bad English. What I was trying to say was that sentence alone could save you thousands of dollars. But we agreed. And I hear this one constantly as well. We've already agreed on anything, on everything. Sorry. Amazing. Honestly, that's the best case scenario. But an agreement and a legally formalized agreement are not always the same thing because without proper documentation, someone can change their mind later. Future partners can influence things. That's a big one. Assets can increase or decrease, disputes can arise, or one person may later make a claim. And you have stamp duty concessions available as well when you formalize it in consent orders or a binding financial agreement. And people are often shocked to learn that this can happen like years down the track, particularly in a de facto relationship where people incorrectly assume, well, we weren't married, so there was no claim. Very, very wrong. There are some elements that you have to reach, but yeah, de facto couples can absolutely have property settlement rights. So the biggest cost mistake people make, the biggest financial mistake I see is people spending money emotionally instead of strategically. So they spend 20K arguing over a couch, but they don't want to consider any tax consequences. They ignore super, they're ignoring refinance capacity, they're ignoring future stability, ignoring the cost of litigation itself. And sometimes people become so focused on winning that they accidentally burn the asset pool down around them like a legal campfire because they're wasting money on legals when that money could be going to them and their family. And I get it. Separation can be really emotional. You're grieving, you're stressed, you're scared, you're angry, you're overwhelmed, you're all the things. But the more organized and informed you are early, the more money you can usually save. So quick wins to save some money. Here are some practical quick wins. So get clear on the asset pool early. So start gathering your bank statements, super balances, mortgage statements, loan documents, tax returns, business records, valuations, and all your liabilities. Basically anything money-wise, any assets, any liabilities. And it's not because you're preparing for a war, although some people unfortunately are, but because clarity reduces chaos, and chaos can get really, really expensive. So quick win number 2, understand the difference between legal advice and legal work. So one of the smartest things you can do is use your lawyer strategically. There are some admin tasks that you can do yourself. There are some things you absolutely should not DIY, having said that too. Knowing the difference can save you thousands. Sometimes spending 1 hour getting proper advice early prevents 10 hours of damage control later. Quick plug here, but that's exactly why I created my Empowered Separation program. I will pop the details in the show notes if you are interested. Quick win number 3, don't assume amicable means protected. You can still be respectful and formalize things properly. Those two things can coexist beautifully sometimes. And formalizing an agreement isn't about mistrust, it's about clarity. And think of it like insurance. You hope you never need it, but you're glad you have it when it needs to exist. Quick win number 4, understand your time limits. This one matters for married couples. Or under facto too, but for married couples, there are time limits after divorce to bring your property settlement applications. For de facto couples, it's the same. There are also time limits after separation, and most people don't realize that the clock may be ticking. And sometimes the court may not allow an exemption. So how much does a separation cost? Frustrating answer, it depends. It depends on complexity, conflict, willingness to negotiate, disclosure, businesses, children, property, and communication, and a few other things as well. So some matters can be resolved relatively efficiently, and for that to happen, you might still be looking at between like 10 to 20K. If you make it to court, add some more numbers to that. Others become prolonged litigation, like I mentioned before, and that can cost an enormous amount financially and emotionally. Please don't forget the emotional bill in this. One thing I can say confidently, though, is being informed early almost reduces costs. So fear loves the unknown, and separation feels far less scarier when you understand the process. So if there is one thing I want you to take away from today's episode, it's probably this. A divorce is not the same as a property settlement. For de facto couples, just because you are not married does not automatically mean there are no financial rights or obligations if you meet the requirements. The earlier you get informed, organized, and strategic, the more options you usually have. So if this episode has helped you, please share it with someone who may need it, because chances are you know someone quietly lying awake at night at 2 a.m. in the morning, Googling separation questions and feeling completely overwhelmed. And I don't want people to feel that way. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And yeah, I hope that's helped. And I'll catch you next week.